We got about 2 minutes till the song's over, and then we'll go on.
Okay. So tell me about your station.
Well, we've been on for about 4 years. It was kind of started on a whim. Somebody told me that I couldn't do it, and I proved them wrong. They didn't want shows that I wanted on. I wanted more serious stuff, and yeah, I started my own thing. And now I'm up to about 3 million monthly listeners, and I'm doing all right.
Wow. Oh, that's good. And so your target audience is primarily what type of audience?
It's mostly music. Don't get me wrong on that. It is mostly music.
What
Um,
age group?
what age group? Between 18 and 64, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so it is a good range because we're worldwide, right? So it hits everybody.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I've worked in a lot of different countries, so that's good.
Most our demographics are mostly in Canada and the U.S. and Germany actually really listens to a lot of us.
Oh, wow. And the type of music you play is more alternative or hard?
We play a little bit of everything. We, right now we're playing with country right now. It seems to be doing all right actually. We like to throw a little bit of everything in there during the day because I mean not everybody listens to the same thing, and I mean people like a mix of everything, so we like to provide it.
An audience with open ears.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. Okay, so we got about 30 seconds. We're live with our second speaker here, and I'll just get him to introduce himself and then tell his story.
Hey, good morning, or at least it's good morning where I am. My name is Dean Gunnarsson, and I'm a lot of different things, but in particular, I'm an alienated parent with two daughters aged 12 and 14. I live in Canada. I live in Manitoba, out in the country on edge of a national park, Rocky Mountain National Park, which is a beautiful, beautiful spot.
Oh, lovely. I used to live in the national park too. I loved watching the bison go by and the elk and everything. It was great.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, it's truly magical. It's just a wild experience. I don't have buffalo in my yard, but they have them in the park. But I do get moose and deer and bears and coyotes and all those kinds of things. So it's a great place. Great place to raise children. And unfortunately, my ex denies me that opportunity.
So it's your ex that's denying you your opportunity. So maybe just go a little bit into what she's denied you of.
Well, basically everything. She's denied me as rights as a father. We separated about 7 years ago. And so for the past 7 years, I've been in the courts trying to get a simple custody agreement. So still after this time, I still don't even have a custody agreement or any rights as a biological father to see my children. Initially, when we first split up, I did have like every other weekend and Tuesdays and Thursdays as nights. But then the alienating behavior started to kick in, and she started little bits of fear, taking I bought tablets for my daughters, who again were very young at the time, taking apps away from their tablets so that I couldn't communicate with them, not accepting phone calls, starting putting little drops of fear into their heads, of saying, oh, I changed the Wi-Fi at home, so she was concerned the girls wouldn't be able to communicate with her if there was a problem. I've never changed my Wi-Fi ever. I mean, I'm not, that savvy when it comes to the internet. I mean, I know what my password is, but it's been like that for the last 20 years. I've never changed it, but just little drops of that to concern, with fear and not communicating, going to Christmas concerts, not the mother not wanting to talk to me, not wanting to talk to the grandparents, and so the children get uh, this acceptability that it's okay to ignore their father, and that it's okay to ignore their grandparents. So when you have parental alienation, it's not only the children are alienating themselves from the father, but they're also alienated from the grandparents, the uncles, the aunts, the cousins, and that's one of the real signs that you can tell when it is actual parental alienation. It's not just the one parent, but it's the whole side of the family that gets kind of excommunicated, so to speak.
So, when was the last time that you actually spoken and seen your daughters?
Well, my daughters haven't spoke to me for 4 years now. 4 years ago this November, but I do get to see them. My ex lets me see them every Friday night for 2 hours. So I get them for 2 hours. They get into my vehicle, but they have their heads covered and they refuse to talk to me. So for 2 hours, again, I live in the country. I live in a national park. We drive around. If I go to their grandparents' house, they won't talk to their grandparents, cover their heads. If we go for ice cream, they won't get out of the vehicle. They keep their heads covered. Um, they won't. And at first I was kind of angry and why are you disrespecting me like this, or why do you disrespect your grandparents? But then as you learn and study the characteristics of parental alienation, it's not really the children that are doing this. This is a reflection of the alienating parent, and you're just the target of this. So they just mimic what they've been taught or trained, either directly or indirectly. So they just mirror the mother in this case. I mean, it does happen both ways, but it seems like over 90% of the cases are mothers targeting fathers. So, like I said, I do get to see them, but I don't see their faces. I don't see pictures of them. I'm blocked from social media. So the only time I actually get to see a picture of what my daughters look like is from school pictures.
Wow.
So I've done a lot of studying, and I've talked to a lot of professionals and getting advice. I mean, there's so much good resource information out there now as you start to understand it, because I I feel a lot. Parental alienation is a lot like going deaf. It happens sometimes very gradually, and you don't realize what's happening or what's going on or the manipulation that is happening until it's too late. And then you're kind of like, angry and upset and, directing it towards the children, and you're frustrated. And as you actually try to read the books and attend seminars and workshops and things, you really start to learn the dynamics of us. And this is why a lot of people have a hard time understanding this, because it's like, well, why would they do that? Like, what did you do? Or there must be something else going on here. But what's happening is you're dealing with, again, the professionals say that most alienating parents are a narcissist with a delusional personality disorder. So you're actually dealing with somebody that has anxiety, stress, a different type of mental disorder. And I don't mean that as degrading or anything. It's just so you know what you're working with. Because normal people don't do this, right? They don't teach children to hate another parent. They don't teach a child to hate a grandparent. But because of their own anxiety and stress and anger or bitterness or whatever, they do this. They hate their ex more than they love their children.
So, what steps have you taken to see your children? Like, how long have you, like, how many times have you been to court? in the last 7 years?
More than I can count. I've been to court twice this summer. I go to court again November 29th, again trying to get therapy for my daughters, and my ex keeps refusing it and denying it. Because, so this type of behavior is not normal of a 12-year-old and 14-year-old, or for any children, really. So then the courts need to look at this to say, okay, there's something wrong here. So what's wrong? Is it the targeted parent? Is there physical abuse? Is there sexual abuse? Well, what's going on here? Or is it something from the parent that has custody, right? Either way, it needs to be looked at and evaluated thoroughly, because this is not normal. So as a targeted parent, I have nothing to hide. I'm not afraid of anything. I've had false allegations that I've tried to strangle my daughter. I mean, I've been cleared from Child and Family Services, the RCMP, everything. You know, it's part of the silver bullet that alienating parents use. So I'm totally accepting and not afraid of any type of therapy, reunification therapy that can happen. But as the alienating parent, they're afraid of their behavior, so they try and avoid this at all costs because they don't want to be exposed and they don't want to be the problem. They like to play more of the fact that they're the victims. And through many people that I've studied, and like I said, I've talked to Dr. Amy Baker in the States is phenomenal. She's come up with a 5-factor model of parental alienation so that you can look to these 5 factors and see what classifies for alienating behavior. Another really good person to study is Karen Woodall out of England. She has, again, some amazing videos and books and articles written on parental alienation. Dr. Richard Warshak out of Dallas, again, has written a number of great books and studied a lot of parental alienation. Dr. Richard Chelios. I mean, there's some really good people. So there is a movement about in the United States and Canada and other countries of where when you get divorced, you have to divide half your assets. So you divide up the house, the car, the assets, you know, the whole bit. But when it comes to children, you have to fight for custody. Generally, in most cases, not all, the mother will get the children, and then the father has to fight for rights. And then, you know, maybe the kids will creep back to the other parent with alienating behavior. But what needs to be the set point is the starting point of 50-50 sharing or co-parenting. So that when a couple gets separated, divorced, that the children naturally go back to 50-50 sharing. Half the time at the mothers, half the time at the fathers. This doesn't totally eliminate the alienating behavior, but it does limit it, and it kind of takes the children out of this struggle, out of this fight. They're less likely to have to pick sides. But the professionals have found this is the healthiest, physically, mentally, all the way around to raise children after after divorce. So this is what I've been fighting for in Canada. Along with a lot of other really good people, is that this needs to be the starting point. And when you look at it, it only makes common sense. Common sense to everybody, but a lot of the lawyers that like to make money off of this, because high complex divorce costs a lot of money to fight. And again, the real losers are the children, or the alienating parent that doesn't want to see this.
Have your daughters done any other therapy outside of what you know?
Yes, yeah, I had them for a while in like traditional therapy, kind of talk therapy, to express themselves. And again, initially it went really well until the therapist started to figure out what the problem was, and that the problem was with the mother. And when she tried to help with the mother pulled them out of therapy and said, "Oh no, the kids don't want to go anymore. Generally, uh, traditional therapy doesn't work. You need a really trained professional or therapist that is educated in reunification and alienating behavior therapy, because it's different. You're not just acknowledging what the girls or what the children are talking about, but you're going more in depth as to the truth or the why of how they're speaking like this and their behaviors. So that's why a lot of times the courts will send them to therapy and it doesn't work. The parents don't get reunified.
So that happens very little then.
Well, that type of reunification, no, it doesn't, because the therapists don't know what to look for, right? It's like a specialist, right? You know, you don't go to see a heart surgeon to get your tooth fixed, right? Or vice versa. You don't go to a diesel mechanic to get your car fixed. I mean, they might know some, but they're not specialized in it. And so that's the same thing with alienated children, is that they need to go to a reunification therapist, or one that understands alienating behavior. Real unification therapy, they say, and all the professionals talk about this, is that actually the child needs to be removed from the alienating parent for minimal 90 days with no contact, no text, no phone calls, no nothing, so that they can kind of deprogram and reunite with the targeted parent. And it's a lot like brainwashing or living in a cult. You have to deprogram it and retrain their thinking and give them critical thinking skills, because they've been taught lies or small little grains of truth over expanded upon. Your father or your parent never loved you. They don't want to see you. Oh, I can't believe they did that. All these little things that have been programmed into the child's mind have to be rethought and to again be taught that the targeted parent is actually loving, caring. They're not perfect. Again, I'm not a perfect parent in any way or perfect person. I make lots of mistakes, and I've had lots of things that I've overcome in my life. I mean, I don't smoke or drink or do drugs or anything like that. But again, I'm not a bad person, but I'm a lot more good than I am bad, and that's the way life is. Everybody's like that. But with alienation, the alienated parent becomes the alienating parent becomes all good and all perfect, and the targeted parent becomes all bad and all evil. And as we know as adults, that's not the case in the world, right? There's gray area, but children in their minds, they split their personalities so that they can't accept anything good from the targeted parent. My children, they won't take Christmas presents. They won't take pictures. Nothing. Like I said, they won't talk. They won't communicate. It's like total cut off.
What is the percentage of children actually coming out of this?
It's very small because we're only recently starting to find out what the actual or correct course of therapy should be, and these type of therapists are very few and far between, and they're also extremely expensive. It's easy to spend, in an alienation case. I've talked to parents that have spent $50,000, $100,000, $250,000, and still not get reunification results. So it's absolutely crazy. So this is where, again, we need laws in place where we start at 50-50 co-parenting to help kind of minimize this, so we don't have to fight. You shouldn't have to fight in court because they make, gobbles and gobbles of money off of this, and it doesn't help the children. The children are the big losers in all this.
No, you've done other media and whatnot as well. What have you seen is like, do you find that it's more men that are dealing with it nowadays, or more 50-50 men and women that are dealing with it nowadays?
Well, statistics show that it happens to over 90% of men. But I do get a lot of mothers that are coming out, and it's reversing. So I think that number is growing lower with just men, because I do hear a lot of women that this is happening to. So I think those statistics might change in the future when they do more, because like I said, I do hear from a lot of mothers that get alienated from their children as well by fathers. And either way, it's just drastic. It shouldn't be a gender issue. It needs to be a child protection issue. We need to protect the children from the people that are doing this. We're very strong against physical abuse, very strong against sexual abuse. We need to stop this mental abuse towards children, because just like the other forms of abuse, the long-term consequences are devastating, right? Children that grow up as adults that have been alienated have a lot of problems that they have to deal with. And so they take these on into their next relationships. Maybe they turn into drugs, and it's purely unnecessary. 100% unnecessary. This doesn't have to happen. It is preventable.
Absolutely. So do they have a reunification therapist in your area?
That's what I'm trying to do now. I've found somebody that's really good. Again, from the direction of other people, other professionals, recommendations. But again, for me personally, my ex doesn't want to send the children there because I've recommended them. Right? Anything that I recommend is bad and not good. And so she said the children don't want to go because I recommended her. But why the children even know that I recommended her is because, again, she said, oh, look, your father wants you to go see this person again. And it's like children should have a voice. We should definitely listen to what children say. But they don't necessarily have a choice. Right? They're not allowed to vote. They're not allowed to drive vehicles until they become a certain age. They can't drink alcohol. They can't smoke. They have to go to school. But yet somehow we over-empower children that says that they're allowed to pick and choose what parent they want to see or not see. Yeah. It's crazy. It's ludicrous.
Well, I want to thank you. We've run out of time. But
well, thank you very much thank you very much for having me on. I'm sorry for what you're going through as well.
You know what? I have faith that hopefully one day my son sees the difference and he sees these shows and he understands that I am here fighting.
Yeah.
In one way or another, I'm doing my job and trying to do my best. And there's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to keep that hope. You have to never give up. You have to never surrender. And we kind of need to go on and be happy, but we need to keep fighting for our children. So, as my daytime job, so to speak, is I'm an escape artist. I travel around the world, getting out of impossible situations, hanging on my toes from a trapeze over Hoover Dam, or crushing cars, or locked in shark cages underwater. And so I've achieved the impossible. I've been seen on television in over 165 countries worldwide.
Wow.
Millions of people. But I can't get my two daughters to think that I'm worthwhile to be with, that they won't love me. And again, it's the insecurity of the other parent. So we have to keep that hope. We have to keep let the children know, like you're letting your son know that you're there, and hopefully when they're ready, when they've had enough critical thinking, and they know that you're not a bad person that you've been painted out to be, that he will come. It's just such a shame and such a waste of that time right now that they're missing out. All the chances to learn from you, to learn from the targeted parent, all the experiences. It's just really sad, and realistically, it should be a criminal offense.
It should be, absolutely. Absolutely. I if I had the chance, I'd love to have the reunification done and him removed and put in my care, but I know that's like that's way out in left field for me. But
yeah, one step at a time. Like I said, there's so much good resources out there to read and study. Like I said, Amy Baker, Karen Woodall, Richard Warshock. It's good. The more you learn, the more you empower yourself, the more you know how to help your children. So I recommend all those things. And to keep doing what you're doing is creating education and awareness for those that don't understand it. And like I said, someday common sense will prevail, and we'll get laws in there to protect these children.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, thank you so much for being on with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I wish we could talk about other things, because, like I said, it's such a crime that children have to go with this. But I wish you all the best in your journey with your son. And if there's anything I can do again or want to talk further, I'd be more than happy to do this. So we're all stronger together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much for being on with us, Dean. I'm going to leave you with some Camila Cabello.